Welcome to Open House, the real estate and mortgage show on News Talk 580 CFRA.
If you have any questions about mortgages or real estate, give us a call at 521-TALK. That's 521-8255.
Or text 1-800-580-CFRA.
With Frank Napolitano and Paul Rushforth, here is Steve Gregory.
What heat dome? No heat dome. It's beautiful out.
Oh, beautiful out, right?
20 degrees.
Who's this Paul guy that hasn't been here in a couple of months, 3 months?
I think he pays for it.
Oh, he pays for it?
That's
Okay.
all he does now.
Well, he doesn't pay for breakfast, so at least he pays for something.
He's saving up for breakfast. That's why he's been away so much.
Yep.
Jonathan is here. Jonathan.
Good to be back, gentlemen. Good to be back. Warm reception. I love it.
What a crowd. What a crowd.
What a crowd.
Good week for you?
Yeah, it was. Actually, you know what? I got away for a little bit. I was down in Tremblant.
I was talking real estate, but go ahead. Tell us
No, it was
about
good.
your
I got
social
away.
life.
Actually,
That's
what
all
we were
right.
Still mourning, eh?
Real estate was good, too.
You're still mourning, though, the Leafs loss, eh?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
well,
of
no,
course you
like we spoke about this.
Yes, we
I'm
did.
used to it. I'm
Yes,
used to it
you
now.
are
I've been a
used to it.
fan for 30 years, and it's just kind of the way it goes, right?
Yeah, the real estate market's been like the Leafs the last little while, right?
Exactly
the sales
right.
are down, eh?
The sales are down.
Yeah.
It's a little bit depressing.
But
out
like
there.
the Leafs, there's always hope.
Oh, always hope.
Eternal hope. It's eternal hope.
Are things picking up a little bit?
You know what? Even though I was away, I was extremely busy. I was on my phone quite a bit. Kind of like what we spoke about there 2 weeks ago. People came out of the woodwork a little bit, and a lot of questions.
I noticed a lot more listings on the website.
Yep.
now.
Yep, we're picking up listings. I know our brokerage, I'm seeing it across the entire market, but yeah, listings are really starting to pick up. It's that time of the year, though. It's the
But is
spring.
that good? Like, is there sales that offset the listings? I mean, if the listings are going up, that's good.
There's sales that are offsetting the listing, but the listings are outnumbering the sales. We're certainly picking up on inventory. It's been a trend now for, probably since April.
Is it fair to
February.
say it's a buyer's market?
Not quite there yet, no. I'd say it's
No?
balanced. It's
It's balanced? Okay.
It's
What are
very
we at,
much
3 months now?
inventory? About 2.5, yeah. About 2.5.
That's
So
good.
It's getting there. And 3 months is the benchmark for a balanced market.
Right.
But we're seeing it's very weird. I sold a property last week, a townhome, and 4 offers, multiple offers, and then I've got listings that are priced well in great neighborhoods they're sitting there. They've been on the market for a month, and there's just
Does it depend how much competition there is in the neighborhood?
that has something to do with it for sure. But again, like a couple of the condo listings I have, there's not a lot of competition in the building or in the neighborhood that much. So it's
Like that, though. I find, and I think you're finding it probably in your industry too, there are weeks when the phone just doesn't stop.
Yep.
And then it's almost like the opposite happens in another week where it's just quiet, crickets. And, as opposed to just a steady number of phone calls coming in and you're just continually working them, it just changes so dramatically. And I've had a whole bunch of people in my company say the same thing. It's like I went from 10 days of being crazy to 10 days of nothing happening. And there's no rhyme or reason behind it because, the Bank of Canada made their announcement almost 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And we got a little bit of activity over it, but then it just died right down. So, and then we have a week where
But
there's
you weren't
no
expecting a
news.
lot of activity from that, were you?
Well, phone calls. So
Yeah.
when I say activity, I say now people starting to inquire again and say, okay, so if interest rates come down another quarter, half, like how much buying power does it give me? So, we're seeing a lot of that. What we're not seeing a lot of still is pre-approvals. First-time home buyers are still sitting on the fence, and I'm hoping the way things are. Tuesday's a big day. The inflation report comes out on Tuesday, this coming Tuesday here in Canada. So, U.S. has had some negative reports this month, which is the first time. It's good. If inflation comes down another 1 or 0.2%, it pretty well almost guarantees that Bank of Canada may drop another quarter point in July. So that'll be that second one that just gives a little bit more hope for first-time home buyers. But I think the fall might end up feeling like the spring market, where there's going to be a lot of activity in the fall in the real estate market. I think the summer's here. Again, people have their kids, so I don't know that housing is that they. And if they are, because they want to move to a new school, then we might see a little bit of activity now. But realistically, I think September, October, November might be 3 of the busier months of this year, I think, on the real estate front.
I agree. I 100% agree with that. There's a lot of people that are sitting on the fence. I know when we got that first rate drop, I had 3 or 4 buyers that kind of jumped right away at that, and they went and they firmed up on deals and they moved forward. But I've got another handful that are kind of sitting on the fence still, waiting to see what happens throughout the summer.
But at what point now, if we get another rate drop and then maybe one more, and there's talk of it going down to 4 points by the end of the year, at what point do buyers begin a frenzy again of saying, I better get in now?
I would say, I don't know if it'll happen quite by the fall. I would say by spring next year, you might see a little
More
bit
activity.
of a frenzy, more activity for sure.
Activity.
There'll be more people out there. It all comes down to buying power, like we were talking about.
It does. It's everything today.
Yeah.
That and monthly cash flow. I mean, one of the first things, it's funny. I mean, people normally ask, what's your best rate? Instead, it's turned a little bit where clients are saying, if I bought a house for this amount with this down payment, what would my payment be? So that's way more important to them than what the interest rate. I mean, not to say that the interest rate's not important, but it doesn't matter what the interest rate is. If the payment doesn't meet their requirement, then it doesn't matter. I mean, it's a no-go anyway. And that's what's happening. A lot of people are saying, ooh, that's way more than I can afford right now.
What's
I'm
the
not gonna be
appetite for a
comfortable.
payment, more or less?
Well, it depends on your income, obviously. But for most people, of your net income, they're happy with 40 to 50% of your net income.
50%?
40 to 50. Again, that's counting principal, mortgage, taxes. So they're looking at the housing cost itself, so that they've got the rest left over for everyday stuff. So that's on your net income, right? So but most people, again, they know what they get paid every 2 weeks. Listen, my paycheck's $2,500 every 2 weeks. If my mortgage payments are in the range with taxes are in the range of $1,200 to $1,300, I'm happy. That kind of thing. Now, on a single income, that's next to impossible.
Yeah.
So this is where, most cases it's a dual income that's in there. And with the dual income, you could say you're getting $5,000 every 2 weeks that comes into your bank account. Most people are comfortable anywhere between $2,000 to $2,500. That's that magic number.
Is there an amount of time you have to be together for it to be considered a dual income?
No. If two people are buying. It doesn't necessarily mean husband and wife. I mean, we've
they'll
seen
look at your
friends
job
buy.
and they'll say you've only been there 6 months. We can't.
Well, it
take
depends
it.
on the job too. So again, depending on where you're working, really does impact whether you get qualified or not. An example is we have one of our agents that's trying to get a deal done where the lady's been on mat leave and now she's a dog groomer, but she only gets paid per dog, but she's only been doing it for 8 months, and she's trying to get it approved based on the fact that this is what her annual income is going to be, but there's no guarantee that the annual income, because if people stop bringing their dogs in, then you don't make as much. So it's more or less it's a commission. When you're in a commission position like that, it's generally speaking they want 2 years history. Once in a while you get a lender to make an exception, but it all depends on what they're doing. And dog groomer just doesn't cut it for them. Like that's too much of a variable job.
There's no guarantees anyway.
There's no guarantees in anything. That's what I always say. You could be working anywhere, including the government, and they could lay off, and therefore you have no job anyway. So, self-employed people always say they get the short end of the stick, and they kind of do, because if you're self-employed and you use your car for your business, well, then you get to write off your car. So therefore your net income comes down quite a bit. Where if you were salaried and you still use your car, you don't get to write off your car. So the salaried people get to use a higher income than the self-employed people do. So therefore they have more buying power, which seems unfair.
Aren't they better at looking at write-offs now, though?
They're a little bit better, but they're not that much better. Again, their hands are tied. So most of the lenders, I will say, their hands are tied because OSFI puts in these rules and they need the banks to follow them. Now, there's more rules coming the end of this year. One of them being that 4-to-1 ratio that they're talking about, and we haven't seen all the details. But what we do know is a lot of the lenders are going to have a pocket of money where they can go above the 4 times. So what they're saying is, if you make $150,000, the maximum mortgage you can have is $600,000. Even if you qualified for more, you can only have $600,000. Now, some lenders will allow you to go above that, but the lenders are only going to have a certain box or a certain percentage of their mortgages that can be above that 4. So,
and what's the thinking behind that?
Thinking behind that is, I think they're trying to limit investors from buying multiple properties because we have a shortage of housing, so they want to try and keep as many houses available for primary homeowners as opposed to investors.
Yeah, but if you're an investor buying a property, you're renting it out because people can't afford to buy homes, so it's a catch-22.
Listen,
what are they?
I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm just saying that this is what their thinking is, and let's call a spade a spade. A lot of the stuff that comes out, a lot of us scratch our heads and say, what's the thinking behind that? That doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. Stress test made sense for a while. It doesn't make sense today. That mortgage stress test does not make sense because we're pretty well at the peak of interest rates. So why do we have to add another 2 points on top of that? They're even saying that interest rates need to come down. Everybody's saying interest rates need to come down. So if interest rates need to come down, why do we have a stress test of +2?
Well, there's going to be a whole whack of mortgages coming due in 2025 as well.
2025, 2020. So 60 to 70% of mortgages are coming up in the next 24 months. If interest rates stay the way they are, I think we're going to have a housing issue.
Yeah.
But the housing issue
Jonathan
is going to be people
busy
can't afford it.
homes.
Yeah, but you can only sell them if people can buy them. If
That's
people
right.
can't afford to buy them, then it's no good.
You're going to have a lot of people that are going to get some sticker shock when they go in and
Yep.
speak with their financial advisor and say, hey, what does this mean with the new interest rate? And they're going to go, whoa,
Yeah.
that's not what we're used to paying.
Yeah.
And their lifestyles are going to change. And
Yep.
there's going to be some people that do say, no, I can't handle that. I'm going to sell the house.
There's going to be a lot of people, I think,
Yep.
that are going to get surprised.
Yep.
We're going to see downsizers, but downsizers that are in their 30s and 40s, as opposed to we're used to seeing downsizers in their 60s, 70s,
Yeah.
because they want to get rid of the big home and get into a smaller home. I think we're going to see downsizers that are in their 20s, 30s, and 40s because they're not going to be able to afford the house that they're in right now.
But even downsizing doesn't save you that much today, does it?
Oh, I mean, it depends on how much you're downsizing.
If you're
right?
going from a home to a townhome, you're not going to save a whole load of money.
But
Depending
it's
on how big
$500
the
a month.
house
It's $500 a month.
Yeah, I was going
That
to say
makes
you'd
a
probably
difference.
say like if you're selling like your average detached home would be $750,000. You're going into a townhome that's $550. That's
Yeah, you're $600, $700, $800 a month. That makes a difference.
It does.
in someone's life.
Yeah.
It's expensive though.
Yeah.
We could say selling is expensive. I say to everybody, I've had clients call me and say, Frank, I think we want to buy a house that's $20,000 or $30,000 more. And I say, well, you could do it, but just your land transfer tax is going to be $10,000. You put in your real estate commission. Like if you want to do it, go ahead and do it. But just so you know, these are the costs to do it. So
Yeah.
and not to take away from the real estate
Nope.
business, but you have to give the right advice to customers.
Absolutely.
They need to hear the right numbers as opposed to hearing, if you want to move to a different neighborhood because you want your kids to go to a different school, well then you pay that price. But if it's just to get an extra bathroom or an extra, you might be cheaper to do it on your own than moving to a house that already has it.
Now, what about qualifying if you own a real estate company and don't show up on Saturdays?
Wow.
Is that?
Paul. Well, Paul's not going to qualify for any mortgage anytime soon. I don't think so.
521 Talk,
He'll be back.
521-8255.
My God, what a party!
We'll be
Starts
right
for
back.
50.
To Open House, the Real Estate and Mortgage Show on News Talk 580 CFRA.
Welcome back to the show. Jonathan in for Paul. Frank is here. Greg is here too. Doing that wonderful video, making Jonathan look good.
he does wonders.
It's amazing. Like to see you in person and then to see the videos, it's like two completely
I
different
know.
people.
Even Paul looks 49 in video,
And somehow,
instead of 50.
somehow you add 30 pounds to Frank.
Yeah,
I don't know how that.
I don't know how it happened. This svelte body of mine. Listen, rounds of shape. I'm in shape.
People call that success.
They do?
Yeah, look,
Listen,
success, baby.
I'm a foodie. I
You're
do
a
mortgages, but I'm a foodie.
I mean, I shouldn't be really pointing fingers.
No.
I used to be a skinny guy.
I'm-
Don't know what.
I must be the most successful guy in the room then. That's holy mackerel.
We're not fat. We're short for our weight. Remember that.
But I'm 6 feet.
6'4", you'd be the perfect weight. See?
First-time home buyers. What do they need to know in this market, Jonathan?
They need to speak with Frank
Yeah.
and know what they can afford. And I think the most important thing is not what you're pre-approved for; it's what you're comfortable spending.
Yep.
Don't
100%.
go in and overextend yourself. Don't go in and become house poor. As I say to people, your quality of life is affected so much by how much you're spending on your mortgage and how much is left over to do things that you want to do. You don't want to just sit in your house all the time, right? We live in a great city. You want to get out. You want to do things. You might want to go on vacations. So it's not about what you're pre-approved for. It's what you're comfortable spending, and then work around that number. And I think that sets you up for a little more success. And certainly a much higher quality of life, definitely.
So what size mortgage are most first-time home buyers comfortable with right now?
If it means waiting another 6 months or 9 months, what's the big deal?
Yeah.
Like that's what I say to a lot of young people. Stop being in a rush to buy. You don't have to buy. Again, there's a lot of real estate agents out there that
Jonathan,
are...
you having a heart attack there?
No, I'm good. I'm good.
No, because there's a lot of real estate agents out there that are saying, hurry up and buy now, hurry up and buy now, because if the interest rates come down, the values are going to go up. We don't know that for sure. There's no guarantee that house values are going to go up if interest rates come down.
If you can, though.
Is it possible? Yeah, it's possible that it happens. I've had a couple of clients, actually, the last few weeks buy from builders with the hopes, their thinking is that by the time that my house is built next June, July, when I get it next June, July, I'm hoping interest rates are 1.5% less, so that it does. But we qualify now, but we're not comfortable with that number. But I think we'll be more comfortable if the interest rate comes down by 1 or 1.5%.
The opposite problem that people had 2 years ago.
100%.
Oh, yeah.
Right? That's what they worry about.
And sign.
Well, and builders can attest to the fact that they lost some sales because all of a sudden the house is ready. People bought it when the interest rates were 2.5%, and all of a sudden they're at 5.5%. Now they can no longer qualify to begin with. And then even worse than that was the fact that they overpaid for the house because they paid for the value based on when they bought it. But in 2 years, that value's come down a little bit. So in many cases, the value is very close to what they paid for it now. But again, it's the fact that the interest rates have gone up. But
so what's the average for first-time
rule of thumb
homebuyer?
is 4 times your income is what you qualify for a mortgage.
And what do you see mostly, though? What size mortgages for
Close
first-time
to
homebuyers?
3 is where people are more comfortable. You get close to that 4 number. So if you're making $100,000 and you've got a $400,000 mortgage with today's interest rates, depending on your lifestyle, it could be a little tight for you, right?
So with a $300,000 mortgage, what's available out there right now?
Not much.
No?
No, I mean, you're getting into, like, you're going to be absolutely.
No, the mortgage $300,000. Assuming you've got money to put down as well. So.
Well, yeah, but they're not going to be putting down that much. So say if you're looking at,
there's not a lot out there at 350.
No, there's
maybe
not
a small condo.
You're looking at I've got a 2-bedroom condo over at 500 Laurier that's $399.9. It's ready to move in. It's in
condo
good shape.
fees $700-800.
Condo fees are about $7. I think they're $730.
That's the problem.
Exactly.
So $730 translates to another $130,000 worth of buying power. So from a monthly costing standpoint, if you're going to pay $400 for a condo, well, then you might be able to find a townhouse for $520, $525, and your monthly cost would be the same.
That's what my first time home buyers. Yeah. It's a lot right in that area. $550, $475 to $550, and it's a townhome, 2 or 3 bedroom townhome.
Good starter home. It's not your forever home.
So $475, you can get a townhome now.
Yeah, 2-bedroom townhome. I think what did I just do one for?
Probably in Paul's neighborhood, no?
Yeah, exactly, over in Paul's neighborhood.
New Orleans, sure. Yeah.
Orleans, Canada, Riverside South, Barhaven. You can find those for $475, $550. Now, you're probably only getting 2 bedrooms. Under 5, you're probably only getting 2 bedrooms.
Yeah.
But as Frank was saying, they're fantastic starter homes.
Yeah.
They're great. They're all in great shape. They're low maintenance, which is, again, first-time home buyers, especially the millennials and the Gen Zers, they're not looking for big yards and all of this maintenance.
They want to cut the grass with scissors.
That's exactly it. Or just
that, or just a deck to
just
sit
a deck.
on and
the
relax.
one I just sold was that. It was just like that. It was just a big deck in the backyard. It was beautiful. It was a great entertaining space.
Yeah.
But just a big deck, and you don't have to worry about anything. And you do your roof, you do your windows, and away you go.
So at $550, you can get a 3-bedroom.
Yep. Certainly in my neighborhood at Hunt Club for sure.
You're Riverside South or no? Where are you?
No, I'm Hunt Club, but just by the airport.
Oh, right by the airport. Okay.
Yeah. Just not far from the airport. Yep. And that's. Oh, the one across the street just sold. What did he get? $527, $525, right and around there. And it's a 3-bed, 2.5 bath, little backyard, backs onto a park. Cute spot.
That's not horrible pricing.
It's a great starter. It's great. Listen, it's 3 to 5 years. Build some equity.
Exactly.
Wait for the rates to come down a little bit.
Yeah.
Bring your payment down. Your incomes will go up. If you have any other debt, hopefully, you've got enough to be able to knock it off so that you're ready for that next home 3 to 5 years from now. And at least you're building some equity.
You're building some equity. And again, if you get into a 3-bedroom home, 3-bedroom home's a 3-bedroom home. You can start a family there.
Yeah.
It's not like some people who get into a 1-bedroom condo and then all of a sudden they meet somebody and they want to have a child and then you're under the gun to sell. You can't live there anymore. At least you've got some room to grow in those places. And like Frank was saying, build up some equity and then move into your detached home or move into something that's a little bit bigger when the time is right. But no, the townhomes, they're fantastic starter homes.
And there is a lot of homes out there where way more home than is needed.
Yes.
Right? It just
always.
You got 2 people living in a 3,000 square foot home. I mean, it's not.
You see it all the time. You go
anymore, right? So you see it all the time, right?
Empty. The 4th bedroom's empty. There's nothing in it. There's no artwork. There's nothing in it. Like they have no use for it at all.
4th bedroom is kind of like the old dining rooms where no one.
That's exactly it.
Or you had that formal living room that no one would ever sit
the
in.
Christmas tree room. It was the Christmas tree room.
The Christmas tree or the reading room
That's
where
it.
you just go in there and read a book kind of thing. So
when I was a kid, we'd walk past the living room, You're not sitting in there with jeans on.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Hey, see, we were allowed to because we had plastic on ours. So, we had plastic furniture.
You still have. You hand down that plastic from generation to generation, or do you get new?
I'll
plastic?
tell you, they don't make those sofas and couches like they used to. I can tell you that much. Those things would weigh a ton when you lifted them up because they were made out of real wood.
Real wood, yeah.
Yeah, and they lasted forever. So.
Of course, with the plastic on them.
Plastic on them, that's right. That's right. But again, it shows an example. We make fun of it, but it shows how back then, even though in today's world they didn't seem expensive, back then they were expensive pieces to have. And Italians weren't the only ones. Europeans generally would put the plastic on there because they didn't want to spend, like they found beautiful. They would spend a little bit more to get some really solid couches, and then they wanted to maintain them for 20, 25 years.
And
because
don't forget,
back then,
they weren't buying them on credit either.
They weren't.
They were saving up
money. They had
money.
to save the money and then buy them. So that's changed, eh? It's interesting, the credit. Speaking of credit, in the U.S., they just came out with a report. Highest credit card balances ever in the U.S., and delinquencies are way up.
Mm-hmm.
Like people are late 60, 90 days are way going
60,
right off.
90?
60, 90 days are going off the chart right now. So, again, we're starting to see the cracks, the little cracks of the high interest rates and how much it's people have been able to withstand it, but we're going to start to see over the next 6, 12 months, we're going to start to see some of these negative numbers. We're going to see businesses going belly up. We're going to see bankruptcies going through the roof, I think, especially in the winter.
Wow. Well, they say it takes, 18 months to get through the economy?
It does. So we're getting close to there.
So we better start lowering rates.
Well, that's what I think is happening. I think, as much as we criticized him a little bit for hanging on as long as he did, I think he knew that once he started, he would have to continue this downward trend. He wouldn't be able to drop it once and now wait 6 months. That's not going to happen. I really believe that July 24th, the likelihood is very high that we're going to see a drop. We'll know on Tuesday based on the inflation report. And then I think right after that, it's the first week of September, and I think we might see another one as early as the first week of September. So.
You know what I'd like to see? I'd like to see him drop it down to 1 for a month. Let everybody buy their house.
Yeah.
Let everybody get their mortgages, buy their house, and then boom, put it back.
We don't want
again.
again. You know what? I do care about the housing industry too, and I don't want the houses to do what they did during the pandemic. So I think doing the quarter point at a time, I think is the smart move.
521 Talk 521-8255. We'll be right back.
We return to Open House, the real estate and mortgage show on News Talk 580 CFRA.
Welcome back. Jonathan in for Paul, Frank in for Frank, Steve in for Steve. The only
and
guy.
Greg's in the house.
And Greg is in the house.
Videotaping the show like he always does and giving his input.
Taping. Yeah.
Taping.
Yeah.
Taping. Taping. Wow.
What do you call it? It's not videotaping now. What do you call it?
Recording, no?
Just recording. Yeah.
Recording.
Digitally.
Digitally. Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. And busy. What are you finding? Well, now, what Steve would normally ask. Now the pools should be nice and clean and.
Oh, yeah. No. The last couple of weeks, the weather-wise, it's been amazing. And we're starting to get some of those calls from sellers that are thinking about maybe in the fall, in the winter, to come. So I've been doing a bunch of exterior photos now to have them show off pools and landscaping and stuff. Now's the time to look at that when things are the greenest, looking the best, your pool's the cleanest it's going to be this season.
Yeah.
Right now, get it photographed if you're thinking about the winter.
It's the time of year, though, to sell a house if you've got beautiful landscaping, isn't it?
Absolutely. I tell lots of people in, the spring, in those March, April months, I go like, can you guys wait a couple of months here?
If you've got a property
Exactly. If you've got a pool, can you wait a couple of months? Do you need to sell right now, or can you wait a couple of months? Because you're going to maximize your value. You're going to sell it quicker, and your house is going to show pristine. It's going to show the best it's going to. March and April, they're ugly months here in Ottawa.
Especially with pools. There's nothing uglier than a closed pool.
The black tar.
Yeah. You just can't
all around it.
You just can't see past that.
No, it's tough.
That's why you got to take pictures and video now, right?
That's right. That's right.
And that's why you do it now, so at least you've got something to look at, what it's going to look. If people did that, you can list them in March and April because you'd be able to have,
a visualization of what it's going to look like.
What it's going to look like. You can have little Google, whatever, the screens in the houses and put the pictures there so that they can visualize what it's going to look like. So
yeah, that Google. Do that Google thing.
Do that Google thing. Those Google screens there.
With our taped video.
You can tell
when Frank leaves here, he's going to go home, put the cassette in his car.
VHS in, rewind. Make sure, be kind. Please rewind.
Yeah, my 8-track. Yep. Oh, yeah.
The Teslas come with an 8-track, Frank?
They do.
Wow.
Oh, I know, eh?
Jonathan's laughing, but be kind, please rewind. If you remember that.
I remember
you're
that.
no kid either.
I remember that. I remember that for sure.
You do, eh? Wow.
Yeah. Oh, I remember Mom coming in. I got charged $1. You didn't rewind. You didn't rewind.
Yeah.
No, I remember the VHS days for sure.
I'm so old, I remember going in and renting one.
Yeah,
You know?
Blockbuster.
Oh yeah, for sure. That was
You would,
yeah.
you would rent the machine.
Yep.
Oh,
The whole
no,
machine,
I don't
yeah.
know. I don't
Oh,
remember
yeah.
that. I remember
They
renting.
would give it to you in a big duffel bag, the whole machine. You go home, plug it in, watch your movie, and bring it back.
Watch it on
And
watch
it
it on a
weighed about-
20-inch TV. And
Weighed
wow.
about 200 pounds.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, boy, we're aging ourselves.
So if you have stuff like that in your house, you should probably update, right, before it,
Yes.
it shows
yeah.
well.
Yeah. You don't want to go in there and have it looking like a museum.
Our garages are, again, right? I mean, you try to cater to everybody, but, I know if my wife and I were going to look at a house, she'd be looking at, certain areas, and I'd be looking at others. I'd be looking at the garage. I'd be looking at the backyard, and I'd be looking at
I have some couples come
the
in.
man cave or the entertainment room and the kitchen for me.
Some
would be
couples come in
important.
and they hold their hand throughout the entire showing. Others walk in and they beeline it like they're gone. They don't
Yeah.
see each other until we leave the front of the house.
Really?
Interesting,
Yeah.
eh?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Just like Frank was saying. The men like to go down to the basement or the garage or the backyard. Women are in the kitchens, the bathrooms, checking those things out. It's just, but everybody's different.
So here's a question for both of you. In both of your lines of work, who has the most clout?
Women.
The husband
I was
or
the-
the...
Every time.
Yeah.
Really?
You
Yeah,
can get
rarely. I mean, there's some nationalities where I think behind the scenes the woman has a lot of influence, but the man does most of the talking. But I usually,
But the decision maker usually
the
is
decision
woman.
makers.
Usually
yeah, it
it's-
usually is.
well, the woman when it comes to the house,
Yeah.
it's usually the woman. Just because if my wife didn't like a house, why am I buying it up?
Men are a
Well,
little. We're
yeah.
pretty simple, right? Like we're.
Well, that's an understatement.
Men are pretty simple. Like we don't need a whole lot.
Oh,
And
let's get those lines lit up now. Women, women will disagree entirely that we're simple. 100%. Where's the simple guy? I don't have one. So,
Simple-minded, I think.
Yeah, simple-minded for sure.
Yeah.
well, we're grade 5 students always. Like we're always in grade 5.
That's
so
true. That's
it is
true.
what it is. So, men don't. We're boys.
Yeah, we are. We're
just boys all the time. So.
So having said that now, if you're trying to set up your home to convince a couple to buy, and if the woman usually has the most say, what are some of the things that you should do to entice people?
clean it.
Yeah, keep clean.
Make sure it's clean. Yeah, make sure it's clean and it shows well. That's it. Make it look warm, homey, inviting, but clean. I can't stress that enough. There's so many homes that I go into, and that's the first thing that comes up to go, oh, like, could they not even clean up before we showed up?
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's people that do that. I showed one yesterday in Finley Creek, and I walked in, and there's a difference between owner-occupied and tenant-occupied,
100%.
obviously. Like, there's pride of ownership. Like, that's just the way it is. And I walked in, and I thought for sure this place was tenanted. So I pull up the listing, and nope, owner-occupied. There's dishes in the sink. There's stuff all over the
Really?
place. Yeah, and it's
Like
and
when
it-
you're selling your house, that house is not yours. It's a showpiece, and it's got
That's
to
it.
be pristine.
exactly. Like, if you go to a car dealership, you don't open up the car and there's candy wrappers
Yeah.
and dirt and stuff like that. Like, they look clean and pristine.
And you will end up getting less money if somebody puts
absolutely
an offer in.
100%.
Yeah.
Like,
But
yeah.
is that? I'm sure there's some realtors out there that aren't as tough on vendors as they should be
No.
in saying, listen, like this house has to be spotless.
Yeah.
When there's showings, it has to be spotless.
That's
You can't have it messy.
you've got to be forward but polite, and you've
Right.
got to let them know, and it's in their best interest too, right? Like, you're trying to sell their home, you're trying to net them the most amount of money, and if you're not doing your job and preparing that home and letting them know how to prepare the home, then you're not doing a very good job.
Well, they have to understand that once they sign that agreement with you, it's no longer their home.
No, it's not.
Like, consider it now, it's not your house anymore.
No,
People don't think that way, Steve.
You have to, though.
I know you have to, but I would question whether some people will go with that, but I think there's a bunch of people say, don't tell me what to do with my house.
and there's certainly people like that, and it's
Well, this is why we can tell them here, because if you want to sell and you want to get the biggest bang for your buck,
clean, pristine, warm, and inviting. Like, it doesn't
and
have
bright,
to,
right?
right?
And
As
if
bright
it's-
as you can make it. As bright as you can make it, but your home doesn't need to have a brand new kitchen, a brand new bathroom, brand new floors. It just needs to be clean, pristine, well cared for. I tell my clients all the time, like, this home, you can tell that you're getting a good home. It's well cared for. You're not going to find any problems or things that are hidden. Like, you can see these people really cared for their home. It might be a home from 1995 with its decor.
Yeah.
But who cares? It's been
But
well cared for.
That's the other thing. If you see a house that is not clean, and you think to yourself, well, if they're not even going to clean it,
Right. What else
are
is
they
gonna go
not-
on?
What else are they
What's
not
behind
doing?
the bones?
When's
What's behind the bones,
When's
right?
the last
And that's
time the
exactly
furnace
it.
filter was changed?
Yep.
When's,
Just bang on.
So we all agree it's got to be clean.
Got to be clean.
What's the appetite for people fixing up homes these days?
Depends. It's expensive.
It's expensive.
No. But as far as buyers go,
No, and like again, this is a generational thing. Like I'm a millennial, and the Gen Zers are coming up, and I don't want to offend anybody, but we're not as handy as are the older generations. We're just not. We're just not, and we like to come into things that are done already, and we don't mind paying for it.
Yeah,
that's not a problem.
They use that Google thing a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything's
Google and YouTube.
How do we do this? How do we change a light bulb?
Yeah, that's true. It's true. And there's still certainly obviously people that are in the trades, and there's some people that are willing to take that on, but the appetite for it's not even what it was when I got started 11, 12 years ago. Definitely not. It's changed over, and it's a generational thing.
So what will turn people off? A deck that needs work?
No. It would be a combination of things. Like if you got to do a kitchen, a bathroom, and the floors, that's stuff that people go, oh, that's too much. But if the bathrooms are done and they get to do their own kitchen, hey, that's good. We get to pick out our own kitchen. That's great. Or vice versa. If the kitchen's done and they get to do a bathroom or they get to do the ensuite, that's fine. It's almost one thing.
It's nice to have something that's changed and that's new.
There's one thing, like if there's three big things, kitchens, bathrooms, flooring, one of them. They're willing to go in and do one of them.
Yeah.
But it's expensive. Like Frank was saying, it's like if
that's where the Purchase Plus Improvement Program comes in for anybody that's buying a house. But it comes with, rules. And, I've had people call me and say, Frank, I want to do Purchase Plus Improvements. And I don't know, I'm doing $80,000 worth of renovation. So can you get me approved for, well, it doesn't work that way. You don't get to say a number and then they give you you have to provide us with estimates of the work that's being done. And where it's possible to get some draws, realistically, what the program is about is more you do the work, you finish it, and then that money comes to you. So in other words, if you bought a house for $500,000 and you're doing $50,000 worth of renovations, you'll get approved for the purchase price of $550,000. But that $50,000 in upgrades that you're doing, you won't get until you've completed those upgrades. So at the time that you get possession of the home, the mortgage will be based on the $500,000 purchase price, whatever your down payment is. And then the rest of the money for the renovations goes to the lawyer in a trust account. And you only have access to that money after the renovations you said you were doing are completed. What we're seeing a little bit of flexibility on is it used to be 10% of the purchase price. Now we've got insurers that say just send us what they want to do, and then we'll determine from there. What the default insurer and or lender are doing, they're making sure that the renovations, the upgrades you're doing will actually bring the value of that home up to what it's going to be with the Purchase Plus improvement. So,
there's got to be a cap on that, right? It's got to be within the homes in the in the same neighborhood. You can't put in $300,000.
Correct. So you're finding a home that has TLC, right? That needs an updated kitchen maybe, and it's a beautiful home in a beautiful neighborhood. It's just dated. The kitchen's not done or the floors aren't done, and you're getting it for $600 where every single other house in the neighborhood selling for $660, $670. So you're doing that work to get it up to the value of what the neighborhood is that has the updated kitchen, the updated floors. So the other thing we're seeing flexibility on, it used to be 90 days. Now we're seeing them say it could take as long as 180 days to do it. But know that you're paying interest on that money as it's sitting in the lawyer's trust account. So technically, the mortgage has been advanced for the purchase plus the improvement. It's just you don't have access to the money until you've completed the renovation.
So you've got to come up with a portion at least of that money for
whatever.
the contractor.
If you're buying with 5% or 10%.
No, for the contractor, though, you got to.
It's either that or you got to find a contractor that understands that the money is there and they'll get the money at the end. Because that's the biggest fear for most contractors. It's not that they can't do the job. They're scared they're not going to get paid. Where you can do a contract and provide it to the lawyer to say, hey, the money's sitting in, the lawyer can authorize and say that the money's sitting in trust, and then you can do a contract with the purchaser and say, listen, once the project is completed, my lawyer will turn over the $40,000 or $50,000 that's sitting in trust, so that at least the contractor knows that they're getting paid.
Is there an extra cost for that mortgage?
No. The everything's the same. You
Yeah.
pay the default insurance based on the high amount. If it's default insured, I mean, if you're putting 20% down, I've had people say we're going to put 30% down. I said, well, then don't put 30%. Put 20%, and then keep the other 10% and do your renovations with that 10%, so that we don't have to go through the money sitting in a trust account. So, but if you're buying it for most first-time home buyers, they're buying it with less than 20%. So yeah, you've got to come up with that portion of the down payment. There's no extra cost. But again, the important thing is that the money is advanced to the lawyer. So therefore, your mortgage is all right from the beginning. It's on the higher amount. So you're paying interest on the higher amount. So you want to do those renovations as quickly as you can.
521-TALK, 521-8255. We'll be right back.
We return to Open House, the real estate and mortgage show on News Talk 580 CFRA.
Welcome back to the show. Jonathan's here. Frank is here.
Greg is here.
Greg is here. Greg is quiet.
No.
So we have hear no evil, see no evil.
Not getting himself in trouble. Exactly. Jonathan and I will do it.
That's
Wait
right.
until Paul comes back. Maybe he'll be 51 when he comes back. I don't know.
I don't know if I'll still be alive when he comes
Yeah.
back. Are you seeing people getting into homes together? Friends buying homes together now?
No.
No, huh? 'Cause
Maybe on an investment side of things.
but not as move in.
No. I can't say from my own personal.
It's not a bad idea.
I get
though.
calls.
If you can bite off 5 years and say, you know what, we're going to stay together for 5 years. We're going to sell the place in 5 years.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great idea in theory.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of calls from two couples buying.
Yeah.
Because they want that 4-bedroom home. So I've gotten a couple of calls on that. And I've gotten calls on like two buddies buying. And again, I mean, they're looking at it as a short-term, 3 to 5 year. Let's buy it together instead of going to rent each other. We're each going to go rent somewhere. Let's just buy a house together. We can share the cost, maintain it together, and share a kitchen, share everything else. So it makes sense if you want to build some equity and get in. Because individually, it's so difficult. Like, it is so hard to get into a home on a single income these days.
You know what makes sense to me? If you were to buy a triplex with another couple,
There's not many, though.
each take one and then rent the other one
Good
out.
luck finding, like, they're not building. They're still, I'm surprised they're not building. So, again, I was born in Montreal, and there's East Montreal, where all you see is these buildings that have 6 units in them with 2 bedrooms. And those are everywhere.
Yeah.
And therefore, they were able to get a lot of people into homes at least. And whether they're renters or whether you buy the whole building and now you got 5 rentals or 6 rentals, you just don't see that here at all. Like, it's, I don't know what it is that we should have more of those, I think.
We should. And you know what? The only triplexes you really see are downtown.
Yeah.
Like that's
And
about it. Like there's
it's not
nothing
cheap.
No, and that's the other thing
You
is
can't
that
cash flow those.
no, you can't. And most of like if you're looking at a good triplex that you want to live in and maybe rent out the other 2 units, you're over $1 million.
Yeah.
So trying to qualify that it's really, really difficult.
Even if you're getting rental income, Steve, it's not, you're getting $2,000 if $1,500, $2,000, but if you're paying $1 million,
Yeah, if you're paying $1 million with another couple.
but
it's-
still,
yeah.
you're qualifying based on the fact that we have 4 incomes. That's great. And
Yeah.
you're living in one unit or the other, but it's not cash flowing. It's still very expensive. If you're getting, if you have 20%
No, but
down,
what I'm
now you
saying
got
is-
an $800,000 mortgage. I mean,
But it gets you into the market, and then
It does.
And then you sell in 5 years, each go your own way.
yeah, they're hard to find though. That's all. They're just hard to find.
They're few and far between, and most of the time it's somebody who's got an advanced real estate portfolio that's picking it up strictly as an investment.
But we're seeing fewer and fewer of those today, right? Because of the cash
They don't
flow
cash
problem.
flow.
Yeah, exactly. They don't cash flow at all right now.
I'm just trying to figure out creative ways for people to get into the market.
We're seeing in Stittsville that they're building a whole bunch of like multi-units. So they're building those 20, 25, 30 unit buildings where there's small, but I think a lot of them are rentals. I'm not sure that a lot of them are for sale. I think a lot
There's
of them
a lot
are
of purpose-built
rentals.
rentals being built
Right.
this year. There's
Yeah.
tons of purpose-built rentals, which is it's good, but it doesn't solve the housing.
But it helps a little bit. At least
does.
it gets,
Relieves a bit of the pressure,
as
lets
opposed to the land being used for 1 or 2 properties.
Yeah.
Now we're getting,
Yep.
we're getting a whole bunch of homes in there. So at least, from that standpoint, it's working. But
Well,
there's so much more we can do.
27% of people who are renting right now plan to buy in the next 2 years.
Yeah,
So
which is a good number, but I'm willing to bet that 5 years ago that number was 40 or 50. So it's come
Probably.
down, right?
Yeah.
So that's what we're seeing right now. And again, we're seeing a good percentage of any of these surveys I see we're seeing that number start to stabilize a little bit of younger Canadians that's saying they may never be able to own a home. I mean, obviously that number got really scary when the interest rates were going up and the values of homes were going up. But now that everything seems to calm down, there's a little bit of hope for some people. The problem is that a lot of them live in the GTA, and when you're in the GTA and a townhouse starts at $800,000-$900,000,
GTA
really
Vancouver,
difficult.
forget about it.
Yeah, it's really difficult to qualify for a mortgage. So unless you've got family that's helping.
Before we get to birthdays, variable or fixed?
So variable and adjustable. So you'll start to hear that I say both those words a lot. The difference is they're identical mortgages. You can convert them at any time to a fixed rate mortgage, and so basically you would take a variable / adjustable because you're waiting for interest rates to come down and then lock in when the interest rates, and you're paying a premium because the prime rate is higher now. But the difference is that if you take an adjustable rate mortgage, then every time the prime comes down, your payment will come down with it. If you take a variable, your payment is fixed. So as prime rate comes down, your payment doesn't change.
Right.
So again, if you're looking for a mortgage where you're going to go and take that, but you want your payments to come down because you feel like you can, it's too heavy for you, but you know that rate's coming down, so you're willing to take it. Take the adjustable so that at least your mortgage payment will come down.
So variable, adjustable, or fixed?
Adjustable if I had the choice.
Yeah.
Or variable.
Right.
So I'm just not a big fixed fan
Not right
now.
now. Not right now.
Just because interest rates are coming down. There's no way that interest rates aren't coming down in the next 6, 12, and maybe 18 months.
Boy, yes, Frank, one question. It's like
3
3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Well, it's like people that come and say, "What's your best rate?" It's like, well, I need to know a little bit more.
Just thorough. He's thorough.
Birthdays, Frank?
Yeah, I got a couple of birthdays. Obviously, my father-in-law, Carmelo, celebrated his 85th birthday yesterday, so happy birthday to my favorite father-in-law. And Tony Giorgio from our office, along with Eleni Sador, Franco Briglio, celebrates their birthday this week. And my beautiful younger sister, whose daughter just got married, my little sister Maria, celebrates her birthday on Wednesday. So happy birthday to little sis.
Nice. Anything, Jonathan?
Nope.
You didn't bring any birthdays with you?
No birthdays. No birthdays at all.
How do we get a hold of you?
613-915-0740. I answer it all the time, so give me a call if you have any questions.
Oh, I think it was supposed to be 788-2122, but
no.
Even if he's on the golf course, he'll be there.
That's right.
Call him at 3 a.m. I'm going to call him at 3 a.m. We'll see if he answers.
I'll answer. I'll be on.
Have a great week, folks.
Support local business and charities, everyone.